Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Jake. Thanks for tuning in to the video here today. This time we're going to talk about yellow poplar. Scientific name for that one is going to be Liriodendron tulipifera in the Magnoliaceae family, the magnolia family. So, we'll flip the camera around. We'll take a look at some of the characteristics of this tree. Stick with me. We'll start by taking a look at this leaf right here. It's a rather peculiar shape. Not something that's easily confused with other species. I've heard this described a couple of ways. One is a cat's face. You could imagine the two lower lobes on the left and right side being the whiskers and the two lobes on the top being the ears. Another way I've heard this described is looking somewhat like a tulip flower, which works out quite nicely because there are a couple of other common names for this tree that are frequently used. One is tulip poplar, the other is tulip tree. So having a leaf that looks like a flower, kind of handy. One other leaf characteristic that I wanted to mention that's easier to talk about with a single leaf in my hand is the petiole. Now this is termed yellow poplar or tulip poplar, but there's a hyphen in the name, meaning it is not a true poplar. But this does share a characteristic with true poplars, such as aspens, populus genus, and that is that the petiole is a bit thinner this direction than it is this direction. It's not significant, but it is a bit thinner. It's not as significant as you would see on the petiole of an aspen leaf, but that little bit of difference in thickness allows the leaf to shake this way when the wind blows, which is a characteristic common among those true poplars. If we take a look at this twig here, you'll notice there are some rings that encircle the twig right on top of this finger that I'm moving. Those are known as stipular scars or stipule scars, and that is what is left after a stipule falls off. A stipule is a leafy appendage. They are not present this time of year, but that is what that is you're seeing right there. And that is one way that you can remember what family this tree is in, the Magnoliaceae family, the magnolia family. Magnolias are one of the few groups of species that you'll find in this area that have those stipular scars. Yellow poplar is an interesting species in that there are 3 different stages of bark development throughout its life. Most trees will have 1 or 2 stages, and what I mean by that is a sapling or a seedling will have one type of bark, a mature individual will have another type of bark. Yellow poplar moves on from that and will have a 3rd type of bark once it reaches a very old age, growing into what might be considered old growth or climax stage. This is a sapling here. You can see there are some very, very small lines here. It's not really splitting. It just has some lines in it. It's very, very smooth, tight bark. As it moves into a more mature stage, it will start to split just a little bit more. So we'll go take a look at that right now. Here we have a more mature individual. This is moving into the pole stage, pole classification, becoming a mature tree. You can see those lines are becoming actual splits in the bark. This is kind of a transitional stage between the sapling and the mature tree, but you can see it does start to change there. We'll go take a look at a mature individual. And here we have a completely mature yellow poplar. You can see those splits that were just starting to form on that last individual now developed into true ridges and furrows. The furrows are not very deep on this species, but they are there. And if you're unfamiliar with that term, these are ridges right here. Those are all ridges, and these low spots in between, those are the furrows. So ridges and furrows. And some species have incredibly deep furrows, very high ridges. This one's pretty shallow, but they're definitely there. As this moves into the very mature stage, it will begin to look more like it does right here at the base of the tree. And you can see it's starting to break up into blocks of bark, and it almost looks like you could probably climb that like you would a climbing wall. That is very common on very, very large yellow poplar trees. That's a relatively uncommon find because it does take quite a bit of time for them to reach a size where that bark starts to develop, that bark form. But it's usually found on individuals that are probably twice this size and larger. The yellow poplar does get very big. I'm going to move this into a wider angle view here so I can get closer. You can see this is a pretty good sized tree. If you can imagine a tree 2 or 3 times that diameter, that is what you would find that third bark formation on. So that is yellow poplar leaves and bark. Now a little bit about how it grows. It will grow just about anywhere. It's what is known as a pioneer species, meaning that if an area is cleared, this is one of the first species that is likely to come back and colonize that area. It will grow in a forested environment naturally, of course. Will grow in the shade, prefers not to. This is a species that likes lots and lots of light. If it is growing in an open area where there is a lot of light, it will develop a full crown like you might expect a tree to have, nice and rounded with lots of branches and a very tall crown. If it's in an area like this, a closed canopy forest like I'm in right now, if there is a break in the canopy where there is a lot of light coming through and a tree's lucky enough to grow right there, it'll probably grow straight up through that gap and have very little outward growth as far as the canopy is concerned, or will take on what is known as apical dominance and just grow straight up. All its energy is put into getting itself up above the canopy to get to that light. So that is a time when it is absolutely phenomenal for timber harvest. There's very little branching, and therefore very little knot development in that wood. Very clear wood for quite a distance above the ground. In an area like this, I'm actually looking at a poplar tree that grew through a gap in the canopy, and I would say that one probably has at least 2 good logs of clear wood, meaning 32 feet above the ground where there are no branches. So that is a phenomenal timber tree right there. But that is yellow poplar in a nutshell. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in comments down below. I'll try to answer those to the best of my ability. And that is all I have for now. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something. Till next time, go forth, enjoy yourself, and always come home safe.